Welcome everybody here on this beautiful winter evening. First thing is additions to the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none. Next.
Well, the only thing I would want to do is number 10 on our agenda is Rachel. And since she's here, can we move her up to like 3 or 4?
Okay.
But also with number 9 and 2, 9 and 10.
Okay. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not going to take us very long to get there.
So
But anyway,
9 and 10 up to where?
I don't think it's going to take us very long to get
Think we're
to that.
okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Guaranteed we'll be there within 20 minutes. So, let's see, next is approval of the minutes, November 18th, 19th. Is there a motion to approve?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Next is communications. Are there any communications?
I have a letter.
Okay.
You guys got this from Pam Wilson?
Excuse me.
Uh,
I'm sorry. Did you do 18th and 19th together?
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
Did not get any letters from Pam Wilson.
Okay, and then I'll read it. It was in my folder, so I just got it. Dear Heidi, I have a couple of thanks and requests. We so appreciate your willingness to be a panelist on the recent Cornwall Association Forum on social services. Unfortunately, I was out of town. Let's see, let's get to the meat of it. My request is simple. We live on a town road in West Cornwall, Upper River Road, sometimes called Cottage Row in earlier town records. It's a small horseshoe road that used to serve the chapel and the parsonage when they were part of the Congregational Church. Since both the church, currently owned by Priscilla and Asher Pavel, and the parsonage, which we have owned for 40 years, were sold by the church, the road has never been plowed in the winter, and only once in 40 years has any spot paving been done. I'd like to request that this winter and hereafter our road be plowed by the town and that complete repaving be done in the spring or summer when the schedule is drawn up for road work. I alluded to spot paving because when I requested total repaving a couple of years ago, a few yards were repaved, but certainly not the whole road. Thanks, and we look forward to working with you.
Okay.
Excuse me, can I see that?
Sure.
Was that just from
So,
Pam?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it had been from agreement historically that they had somebody else plow the road, so.
Is it a town road?
I believe that's Chapel Street, so that is a town road, because it used to go up to the chapel. The only reason the town has maintained it is to keep, there's 2 railroad crossings in close proximity to each other right there, and if we, several years ago, there was movement to discontinue private crossings, so by it becoming maintaining a town road would keep that status, and because those, at one point the railroad wanted to discontinue one of those crossings, and it would make it difficult for people, not just the Wilsons, but there's 5 or 6 other houses that use those crossings. So for that reason, and as well as historically, we've kept it as a town road. But this is the first time that it's been requested to get plowed.
Okay. So what are the thoughts on that? Is it something that can happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easier to plow than it is to pave, so I'll see if we can put that into our schedule with a small truck.
Okay. I'll let her know that, and then we'll review the
Right.
condition of the road and the paving part of it, I guess, when
Yeah, we have to, that gets
that
put in
part, I
with,
know it's a rotating
Yeah.
schedule.
and I'll just confirm our records that it is a town road before we.
Right, that makes sense.
Okay, any other communications? Any public comments?
Yes, I'd like to ask if I can speak when we get to the 275th anniversary committee agenda item. I have some notes in a meeting with Lynn Scoville, so if I could speak
Sure.
when we get to that item.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? Okay,
No. fine.
Let's see, report of the storm of November 26, 2014. I just had some notes on this storm we had last this Thanksgiving. It was forecast to be a heavy storm, so I was in communication with Terry Burke, the Emergency Management Director. He has activated a website which is relayed through the Cornwall website, and it's a Facebook page. He had hundreds of visits to his site over during the course of the storm. Not so much for people to post, but people just checking out conditions and seeing what was going on. On Wednesday morning, he put up some posts warning people of conditions and asking that people delay their travel away from the worst part of the storm. On Wednesday, during the day, we did have some minor traffic problems. Fire department, fire police were called out to deal with some traffic problems in town. We did get some power outages during the day, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, Thursday morning, the fire department was called out for trees down on Route 128 and on the West Cornwall Road. And there were also trees that had to be cleared off Route 125. On Thursday morning, I filed a damage report with CLMP saying that the Route 128 tree was a priority because we had to, that was preventing us from getting access into West Cornwall. And I made contact with CLMP representatives. There were more trees down on Thursday morning. There were assurances given that Route 128 would be cleared that day. It was not. So on Friday morning early, I called up Tom Vanini, who's the Region 5 coordinator for the State Emergency Management Service, and he was able to get CLMP and DOT crews down to 128. Also, Friday morning, trees came down, or trees came down on Route 7 north of West Cornwall. So at one point, West Cornwall had 3 out of the 4 major roads blocked, and Tom was very good about getting resources to Bear and get those underway, and by Friday evening the power had been generally restored throughout town and the roads had been reopened. So a couple of takeaways from the event. One, I think the Terry's social media presence, I think, is a good addition to our response to storms, as well as having Tom, who actually came up from Waterbury, and I drove around with him and looked at conditions on Friday morning and helped expedite with his communications, reopening the roads. It wasn't a huge storm, but we did have several emergencies during it, and having 128 blocked near the firehouse slowed down our emergency response. So overall, it was okay, and Steve Silver, from our community liaison from CLMP, was here this morning, and we talked, and we will get together to make sure these priorities get addressed quicker in the next round. Said a lot of, quite a bit of time was spent by the emergency responders in town going out on the holiday to make sure things were as safe as they could be. So overall, things went all right, but there were some new things there that I think may help us. So I just want to let people know what happened during the storm. On a happier note, the next item, the Cornwall Bridge tree lighting, went very well. There was a very big turnout. The tree is spectacular and got a lot of good reviews and comments. There was a good turnout to the tree lighting. And I just, again, thank the people that made the event possible, from the Amy at the bank, who raised a lot of money, to Zeke Herman, did the signs, Scoville Land Care, Mike Root did put the lights up, Cornwall Electric engineered it, along with James Laporta, who's provided us with the solar capacity. And there's probably people I've forgotten, but
I get comments every day now, people, every day. Tree looks great, tree looks wonderful, tree looks much better, and just constantly. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
It is pretty nice.
I was glad it wasn't damaged during the storm. So that was the last thing. So anyway, again, we've express our gratitude to the community for making that happen.
What are the future plans for it? So I understand the lights are gonna be taken down at the end of the season and
Yeah.
stored, and then they'll need to be put back up.
Right.
And replacement, so is there ongoing fundraising, or what's the plan?
Well, the biggest cost to date, as long as people keep on volunteering their services, is the lights themselves. And if we take them down regularly, depending on what the season is, they should last. And we have probably another 25%. We bought more lights than we actually put up, so we do have some spare. So as long as those local businesses keep on donating their services, we should be pretty good as far as the expense amount of it.
Do they know or understand that, has that conversation been held? That's what may happen?
Well, I think everybody, I don't know, they have, everybody volunteered, and before we start next year, we
Right.
will again express our appreciation.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
Just want
Well,
to
they
make
need-
sure everyone knows what's going on.
The need to take them down is such that, so that
Yeah, last time.
the lights don't get damaged.
Sure.
I'm sure it's far easier to take them down than it is to put them up.
No idea.
But it may be spring before they come down too.
Right.
Everything's iced up at this
Yeah.
point.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Appointments and vacancies, we had a list last meeting of some vacancies. My thought is to advertise this in the Chronicle, and see who is out there. We have gotten a couple of people express some interest, but I thought if we cast the net wider, that would be a good thing. Most of these committees have, this is just 1 or 2 people per committee. The only one that is that looks like it has a lot of vacancies is the Conservation Commission, so it might be good to try to get at least a couple of people in there as soon as we can, if there's interest.
So I have a nomination for that. I like to move that Karen Bartamioli be put on the Conservation Commission.
Okay?
She attended the last meeting and has expressed, well, not more than the last meeting, but she's had attended a lot of the meetings and has some interest in it, and is now a resident of Cornwall.
Okay, is there a second?
How many vacancies do we have?
3.
Three?
So I think there's only 6 people total, so.
They don't have a
50%
quorum.
now.
Right. So I would second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Karen, back there in the back row.
So other folks on these other committees and commissions, do you want them to write a paragraph about why they have interest and maybe their qualifications, sort of like we did last year?
Right. Yes, we've gotten a couple of people express an interest on the Economic Development Committee, and again, that's what we'll do, is ask people to write a paragraph. What is their experiences, why would they like to do it, and hopefully we'll be able to get everybody back up to full strength early in the new year.
Gordon, I
Yes.
finally found room on the Cornwall page this week for the list.
Okay,
So it's in the journal.
Oh, great.
So
Yeah.
hopefully that helps.
thank you. Next we have Cornwall 275th Anniversary Committee. There is no committee at this time, but there has been interest expressed, and Kate Fragang, Joanne has been meeting, so Kate has a letter. She talked to me today about putting something again out there for people that may be interested with this. Here's a draft letter for us to consider, and my thought is put something in the Chronicle, hold an open meeting early next year, and see who steps forward. There have been people expressed interest in participating in the effort, and there seems like there are important Cornwall groups that should be included, including our board, the fire department, the school, Park and Rec, the Historic Society. So Kate, you have a nice letter here. Any thoughts on the event? You've solicited some input already?
I've been having conversations for about, since last Memorial Day with people, just sort of talking it up and seeing what people's ideas were and keeping a record of what people had suggested, which is on the back of the sheet. And so this is really meant to just be the step one, you know, just to start talking about who's interested in being involved and what kinds of things we could do. That's all. It's just step one.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen it. Maybe a copy. Yeah. Well, I do.
Yes, Joanne, did you want to speak on this?
Yeah, well, I had thought that you had, and, you know, Katie had mentioned that you were doing some things, and you had said at the Board of Selectmen meeting that you had heard from Lynn Scoville, and you said, did anybody want to be on the committee? And I raised my hand at the Selectmen's meeting. So I did meet with Lynn yesterday, and she was planning to come tonight, but, you know, because of the weather, she asked me to just share some of the thoughts we had. And our thought was that it would be wonderful if we regarded this celebration differently than we typically do. Everything in Cornwall tends to have a fundraising aspect to it, it seems, on a lot of occasions. And we thought that this should be more like a family party, a great event for everybody of all ages from every part of the community, whether they're full-timers, weekenders, summer only. It would be a way to engage people. I see Katie's got something in here that already says, you know, hold it in the summer. We were thinking maybe some time frame like the first weekend in August before the college kids leave. And if we were to do a save the date mailing in January, people could actually plan their vacations. You know, people who come back every year to Yelping Hill or whatever, come into town. So doing something in that time frame, announcing it then. And we also thought that it would be great, you know, to have, as I said, a party attitude. Maybe something where you had a scavenger hunt that could involve all sorts of things, a picnic, barbecue, where the town would pay for all the meat and people might bring side dishes, and then we might do a big theme cake, you know, something really fun, and hire a big bakery or someone who does really outrageous things and do a theme cake. Maybe have a sports competition and a time capsule. But cap off the day, and we thought it should be a day so that it doesn't lose momentum. When you do, our thought was that doing a lot of small events with different groups divides people up, and that this would be an opportunity to really bring everybody together. And you're not going to bring everybody together for multiple events on multiple days. So we wanted to have a big day, and then ended up with fireworks, ideally, say, in the Coltsfoot Valley, rather than at the lake or someplace that would be hard for parking and that kind of thing. And our thought was, as I said, neither one of us are interested in fundraising. So I made some phone calls because we know we have the $275,000 in the Gates Foundation money, Gates gift money to the town. And as Katie Gannett said to me, nobody loved a party better than Larry. And Virginia Brecker said the same thing. She said, I went to a lot of parties at Larry's house, and actually during the bicentennial, they told me that he actually rented a cannon and shot cannonballs into the river to celebrate the bicentennial. So we were thinking that, you know, an allotment, something like $25 per person per Cornwall resident, so that you'd have a budget of about $35,000. So you could do fireworks. I mean, the scavenger hunt could involve a lot of people in putting that together. And then it would be the food and the theme cake. I mean, you know, people could bring potluck, but that the meat, barbecue, pig roast kind of thing would be paid for by the town. And it really would be a Cornwall family party. So that was just some of the thoughts that we had that we'd like to present to you.
I just want to add that on this list, each of these items is by a Cornwall person. Someone from Cornwall. I didn't put the names of all the people. It probably would have been kind of powerful to have all the different names of the people who made the different suggestions, but just so you know, these are not my suggestions.
Well, these were definitely our suggestions. So we sat down together and just brainstormed and wanted to bring something to the meeting for thought.
Okay, so first thing is, I think those are all good ideas. I would like to pursue the idea of having an open meeting to start, because I think this is a a citizen-driven initiative, so we should have an opportunity for people to come as well as submit ideas. They don't have to even come to a meeting.
Right, but I think there needs to be someone or some group in charge. I mean, Lynn brought the idea, and you actually made her the chairman at our last meeting, sort of half jokingly.
That was
and Joanne
Right.
volunteered. I mean, you can't have, 20 people. You
Well,
need to have a chief. So how are we going to handle that?
I think we can have the first meeting, which I can chair, and then we can gel that into a committee after that. I agree. If somebody wants to paint the cover bridge red, white, and blue, that probably is not a good idea. So not every idea may be acted upon, but I think what Joanne's idea, or the general idea of a day with multi-events, I think is a good one. I remember the 250th, there was a parade, which was very interesting because there were some really good floats and participation in the parade.
I would point out that Lynn, specifically Lynn said, no parade, that was so much freaking work, I can't believe it.
Well,
I think that's pretty much a direct quote.
that is, but I don't think we can rule that out, or I could say the same thing. Fireworks sound like a lot of money that is kind of a waste of money, but I'm not going to rule that out until people have a chance to think through this.
I just wanted to fairly represent, because she probably would have said that if she was sitting there.
Right, so anyway, so what about the idea of having an open meeting on the 8th of January? We can send this out to these people, put this in the Chronicle, put it on the website.
What day is that?
That's a Thursday, that's the first Thursday of the month.
Second
To
Thursday.
create a
Or
committee?
second Thursday. Yeah, to have an open meeting, get ideas, see who wants to be on the committee. And then our following meeting, we can actually formalize it based on the input we get at that meeting.
You think 7:30 is a practical time for folks to come out to meetings like that as opposed to 7?
I don't,
Kids
I
and
think
homework
early is
and in
better.
bed and dinner, and what do you think?
Early is better.
You think the early
Or
is
should we do it
better?
on a weekend?
I just went up through the town calendar, that's all I know.
I think it's fine going with that night, and we can go at 7 o'clock if people feel 7
And
o'clock.
ultimately, whatever day or time you choose, there'll be people that can't make it,
Right.
ultimately. And if they're interested, they'll express that to someone
Right, send
to
it-
make sure
send
that they
messages.
get their hat thrown into the ring, and then the times and dates will get adjusted
Where
after.
will you do
Well,
it?
this
From the
actually
school?
says you could submit anything,
Right.
any ideas you want earlier by
Oh,
email.
email, good.
Yeah.
Well, we have to
So we're
put
gonna
the
change it to
email
7?
address in
Right.
first.
Mhm.
Your email
What's
address?
the address?
Is that what it was?
Whose email address
I
is it
use
gonna
the
go to?
selectman's address on the top. You see
But
I
that
put it
is,
on-
that is not
Oh.
something that goes to all three selectmen. It only goes to Gordon. So I think we should look at having a,
It
We could
will
set-
go if it's addressed to the Board of
yeah, I
Selectmen.
know, but why don't we just set up an email for this?
Well, that's what this is right here. This is all the emails.
No,
That's
no,
what-
why don't we set up an
Oh, so you
email
would set
for
up
the
like a,
committee?
yeah,
So
We
it
don't
would
have
be,
a
celebration
Well,
at optonline.net.
well, you could have
Maybe that
Cornwall
could be determined
275.
at the meeting.
Gee,
Yeah,
I think we
that's a
could-
good thing to talk about.
That's a good, someone could be our, you're gonna need
Well,
a
these ideas
media
are supposed to come from
person.
that.
So, I think we can limp along like this until
Okay.
the meeting.
Joyce is pretty good at forwarding things as they come in.
So, 7 o'clock on the 8th. Any comments on this letter? Thank you, Kate, for initiating all this.
And that meeting
Yeah,
at
we just
7
need to
o'clock will be at the town hall.
Correct
Right.
Joanne's spelling of her last name.
Yes.
Well, I
and
didn't, yeah. in
Add
fact,
me to the list. I know, if you go by how it sounds.
Right.
I've seen worse.
But it could, actually, would you mind putting your name and email on here so I can complete it on that? Okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion then that we send out this letter as revised
To,
to the list here, as well as putting an article in the Chronicle to publicize what's going on.
I'd like to be added to the list.
Sure, you and Richard will both get on
Information
those. Yep. Is there a second to,
there. Does this say
Second
where we're,
side.
does this say where we're having it? Yeah, I'll second it.
it says
Town hall.
bring your ideas to town hall.
Just add your name and email on this, and then you're on the list. That's it.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. Okay. Next is, we got a report from David Batista summarizing his thoughts after visiting Popple Swamp Road and 31 Popple Swamp Road. I think he's gone into pretty good detail here.
Pretty extensive.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. So with this, with Karen's help, we applied as agreed to the Inland Wetlands Commission. They're meeting later this week to receive our application with this report.
And what did you apply for? Which option?
To discuss the drainage issues there.
So it's an
You-
application just to discuss the
Right.
options, not for one particular option?
No, not at this point. But we can, this.
So it's
can-
not an application then? Is it an actual application?
Yeah, to the Inland Wetlands Commission. And what we could do is we could decide, based on this report, I mean, I couldn't choose an option as there's 4 here without the boards looking at all this information. I have no problem with going, we can review this and say we endorse option 1, 2, 3, to 4 at this time. I think that would make sense. But first I want to get input on what you both felt about the report.
Yeah, it was thorough, he did a nice job. And he made it very clear with the colors.
And I think it's not as simple as it appears, and attempting to come up with a solution that fits the needs is not, and the budget is not an easy thing, and I think that's part of what, and meets the needs of the wetlands, not the commission, but the wetlands themselves. And the people involved, the town, the 31 Popple Swamp. I think, going slow and correctly is a lot better than fast and incorrectly. Whatever incorrectly may be, or correctly may be. I think the commission, I would think the Wetlands Commission is going to have a lot to say whether we choose an option or not.
Yes, but I think at least this takes the first step, because
Absolutely.
this is not detailed. But at least it lays it, the first thing they're gonna do is look at alternatives, and this, they may have a fifth alternative that we haven't thought of, but at least this takes the first step, a preliminary look at what's
Well,
left.
the first one is do nothing. I don't think that's going to really happen. It appears as if something will happen. The second one,
Something needs to happen,
And the
something should happen.
Well,
We agreed to do something according to the map.
Well-
Something needs to happen, do nothing is not an option,
it is an option. It's one of the options.
one of his options, not a
Well-
practical option.
Dealing well, who knows, the Wellness Commission can say do nothing. I'm not saying they'll probably do that, 'cause it's not a practical thing, the town should address the drainage, but whatever, they're gonna come up with their options.
The Board of Finance is involved in it too, in terms of how much money is spent in the project. So the second option doesn't appear to be as viable an option with some of the initial estimates that we had, some rough estimates. I understand that they're rough.
Right, which is the option that was originally agreed to on the map, where it gets piped into a swale or a drainage ditch into the brook. So that's what was agreed to, that's the second
Well,
option.
I think you keep saying that's what was agreed to. That was what was suggested. It never was agreed to by anybody, by the Wetlands Commission, as
It was
far
on
as
the
I can
site
tell.
plan on
The
that?
Town of Cornwall Highway Department has agreed to abandon existing culvert and divert stormwater flow along the north side of the road.
That's what it says. I'm not disagreeing, but it does have to go to the Wetlands Commission, and it does have to get paid for.
Right.
So the Highway Department may agree with a lot of things, but if it doesn't get approval from other commissions in town, then there's a problem. And that's how you get into fights in town. And it's best to get all the commissions to agree to the same project than to be fighting about what should or shouldn't be happening. It's better to get a consensus on the way than to drag people doing it. And that's why I think that the third or fourth option appears to be, I think it solves more problems,
Right.
and I think ultimately it'll be cheaper.
Yeah, well, the wetlands generally are not gonna be, the commission is generally not gonna be in favor of filling in that much of an area. Just based on wetlands commissions in general, filling of wetlands is not what they advise. I mean, I like this fourth one with the doing the swale, puts all the water away from the house, it correctly diverts it through the property, you don't have to move the whole pipe.
I mean,
We
you know,
don't have any cost estimates on it, basically, we only have the option 2 cost estimates.
the other thing too is that it may be a better solution is because since, in the last several years, we've had significant rain events and flooding, and this may, even if we put a pipe, which is what we originally thought we were gonna do, or a swale, it may have overtopped the road anyway and created a problem. So this option number 4 addresses big heavy rains, whereas the piping option down the road probably wouldn't have done that, but we wouldn't know that until we'd done this more detailed work, which he's done to date.
Right.
It seems like number 4 is the most practical solution.
Right, and it's
To doing
what
this.
they call the LID, you know,
Right.
low impact development.
And
which
people
is
weren't
what
talking about that
folks like to.
5 or 6 years ago. This is a whole new thing, partially because of all the flooding and runoff problems the state has had
Right, oh yeah.
over the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, and
Now
then
everybody's
what makes
talking
more
about it.
sense, why throw all the water into a pipe and dump it into another brook that's then gonna cause problems elsewhere down the road, perhaps?
Right. So, I have no problem going to the Wetlands Commission and saying we concur with the engineer's recommendation of the option, I believe was number 4, as seeming like it's the most practical solution to these issues.
Does it matter what the property owner thinks? Do we-
Well, I think
Absolutely. I
that,
mean, I
that's
think it's-
certainly part of,
Get
maybe
some
part
of
of the
that input.
conversation, if that's appropriate at this point, to
Mhm.
ask Rachel what, you've seen these?
I have seen them, actually. Thank you, Heidi, for forwarding this information to me. I'll start by saying that I was thrilled to read his letter because for the first time I feel like someone's taking a look at what's good for our family. Wetlands are great and all, but we've sunk our life's earnings into this, so I feel like finally we're addressing our walkout basement and, you know, flooding and things that affect our family. So that, I just felt a little bit more confident that we're having our needs looked at, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you asking Stephen, is it, to come and, is it Steve?
David?
David, sorry, to actually take a look at the problems. I also do think that option 4, and yes, he recommended, I'm not the scientist, but option 4 or 3, both of those seem to be viable because my concern is getting that water away from our backyard, so, yeah, I think that.
I think in fact, both 3 and 4 address that issue
Mhm.
much more so than number 2 does.
Well, 2 does, but it's obviously, I mean, I think the mill rate might go up if we did that. It's
Yeah.
pretty
I think
expensive.
there's a real possibility too, as we've seen in these storm events, that
It could
it
flood.
could overtop, and then when we met with you out on the site, your main concern was flooding your basement. That
Yeah.
could easily fail in one of these,
Right.
10-year floods that we get every year.
My concern with number 4 is just maintenance. We don't have thousands of dollars to annually put into maintaining whatever needs to be maintained for LID, so I haven't seen any proposal, don't have an image in my mind of what he's talking about, but that would certainly be a concern, is what do you do, annual maintenance, or what kinds of things?
Well,
I'd like to leave wetlands alone and let wetlands be wetlands, but.
Right. What's interesting was this isn't a unique problem. We have had to adjust town drainage on a fairly regular basis, not, every year, but we did, probably 15 years ago, there was a flooding condition on Route 7 in Cornwall Bridge where there was a pipe that was taking, on Mansonville Drive, the water was coming down off the hill, and then the town pipe went underneath the road, and it just went straight across the lawn and flooded out people's houses on Route 7. And it wasn't the town's water. I mean, it went through a 20-foot culvert, but as soon as it goes into the town drainage system, the town didn't generate the water, but it became an issue for us. So we did cut a swale long before the days of LID. We cut a swale, paid for somebody to come with a backhoe and dug a 3-by-4 foot swale at an angle across their backyard, which they still can mow. And then that channels the water into a culvert, probably 200 or 300 feet, and gets it away from their property. And that's, been working pretty well for the last 12 or 15 years. So, I mean, I think that's sort of the kind of thing we're looking at. I'm not sure it's all gonna be mowable or whatever, but try to do something that is low maintenance, and I said that did work well in that situation.
Would
And
you
it
be
has
able
for
to
many-
commission a more detailed,
What?
if inland wetlands said, yes, number 4, at that stage, would there be,
Yeah.
would you be able to commission a more detailed layout or?
Absolutely, we'd have
Okay.
to get some sort of survey, maybe. I don't think what your engineer did was enough. We'd have to, get some sort of survey for that couple hundred feet and we have to plug in the septic.
Oh, the elevations
The
and all that
elevation.
could be determined.
Yeah, it's
Right,
different.
so there would have to be a survey and pretty carefully look at, where does it go, and there has to be, consultation with the health district or whatever else, but I'm sure he can come up with some pretty detailed plans of what needs to be done, how big, how wide, but in some experience, I think that having a swale is much less likely to clog than a pipe, and you can put a lot more water into it.
Right.
So hopefully we won't have another flood, but that's not realistic. So I think that's probably a good way to proceed at this point.
So are we all in agreement that number 4 is sort of the suggestion that, what we're recommending to
Right,
be,
that we're endorsing.
Endorse them, or what's the
Right.
verb,
That we will,
Apply.
we will apply to,
Oh, this is number 10.
yeah,
Do you have that, have you already filled out the application?
yeah, but it's very brief,
Basic and
Yeah.
brief to,
right. We can include in our application our endorsement of the option 4 in this report.
I mean, it would seem that whatever the ultimate solution becomes, it's not going to get constructed until warm weather. I would,
yeah,
So
well,
it's
there's gonna be time for wetlands to review it and permit it, and then
engineering, more details, bidding, yeah, so we're way out. It's gonna this is something that would
it's
occur.
gonna be springtime.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna, well, or even possibly later, maybe the spring's you can't do it in the water. You have to wait till the
Right,
spring,
if
the
there's a lot of water.
subsides.
Sure.
My point on this is that,
You want me to buy sandbags first?
yeah.
I understand.
It's possible the town could provide the sandbag.
We have provide sandbags all over town.
Can we turn the fan off because it kills the camera recording sound?
The fan or the heat?
The heat, whatever it is, it's the fan that is very difficult to deal with.
Which one, Gordon, left or right?
Left, just a little bit,
Thank you.
or I'll freeze to death.
Okay,
Warm.
so we'll
all I'm
keep the
suggesting is
conversation.
that we take our time doing this and not attempt to rush it and give everyone the opportunity to speak their piece on it, to allow the inland wetlands, not demand an answer from them immediately, but allow them to process it as in a timely fashion.
Yeah, as long as the process just continues along and it doesn't get dragged down, bogged up, forgot about.
I don't see any reason
I don't,
it should.
yeah, I think the engineer can design something fairly quickly for more detail. So did we actually make a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll move to endorse option number 4, the LID option at 31 Papa Swap Road drainage.
I'll second that.
And include that in our inland wetlands application.
Yeah, he can have this whole thing because I actually have 2. Okay.
No.
They actually have a copy of it.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Who seconded that?
I do.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So, let's see. Next is grant application. We did get the steep grants off last week before Joyce left on vacation. She spent some extra time getting those launched. And Also, I've been working with Tom Barrett of the Fire Department to work on an updated FEMA grant for a new set of jaws of life and automatic defibrillators for the fire department, and those should get in the mail, or actually in the email by the end of the week. So those two grants will be applied for.
FEMA grants.
Yeah, for that equipment.
Did we apply for those last year? Didn't
We
get
did.
them?
Correct.
Did not get them.
But we've honed our application skills, and
Grant writing skills.
our grant writing skills, and consulted with the program people in Boston, and so we're optimistic for this year. So that's it, other than public comments. Any more public comments?
Gordon, I noticed that the selectmen in Falls Village had addressed the issue of how the superintendent's budget is going to be allocated. And as I've been reading the paper, is going to be a $12,000 increase in Cornwall's assessment if they go through with that reallocation of the superintendent's salary. So I was hoping that this board would think about it and perhaps consider at the next meeting conveying your opinion, which I hope would be that we maintain the similar cost for all towns per student rather than this arbitrary way that's going to increase Cornwall's share by $12,000. So I'd like you to consider putting that on the agenda and consider looking at it and advising our rep as to the selectmen's opinion.
Rachel, has the school board talked about this at all?
The school board has talked about it, the local school board has talked about it casually, and as a whole, we thought that at the time with the information that we had, we thought that it made sense to have each town hire the superintendent at an equal rate, not prorated per student, but just flat rate. But that was before we realized that towns with more need get state funding. So towns like Canaan actually do get state funding that would help them offset the price per student, whereas towns like Cornwall don't get any of that funding because you don't have the need. So if you put that into the equation, we probably should go back and talk about it as a board. It was just presented to us as, well, the superintendent works equally for each town. She does the same amount of work
Right.
for all the towns. So in that sense, we thought, okay, sure, that makes sense. But thinking about getting extra funds for, based on needs, we don't get any of that, whereas Canaan gets quite a lot. And that was one of the issues Canaan was looking at. So I think we need to rethink it. It's not as simple as it appears.
Yeah, I was at that meeting where you discussed that.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right, that was
It was-
never brought up about
right.
the extra funding that another town gets,
Right.
that
Right.
that one town gets more funding than another one may not.
Well, that's excess funding. To me, it's a simple matter of numbers. If you have a town with 50 students and a town with 500 students, it would seem that the school system with 500 students would require more work by the superintendent than the school with 50 students.
You would think, but that's not the case.
It just,
Right.
it has to be the case. It just has to be the case. There's more teachers. There's more teachers in the school system with 500. There's more administrative work.
Might
to
be more
done.
work for the principal, but the superintendent is actually just attending board meetings, and if we hire a principal in 1 year, she'd be working for us more, and in another year, she might work for another school more. If they hire a principal, her general work is equal, but it's not a per student funding that the state gives. It's based on need, town needs. So I can't remember what it's called, cost sharing or something. I'm sorry, I can't quite remember what the name of that money is, but it has to do with actually financial need demonstrated by towns, so.
Education cost
Yeah, that's what it is, education cost sharing. So this is a little bit deeper than what we've been presented. The information is,
Yeah, and Patricia even did say that exactly that same thing, that her job is essentially the same at each school,
Right.
no matter what, but depending on if one school is hiring a principal or extra teachers, or there's an extra issue going on here, she might spend more time in 1 year here
Right.
and then another year more time over here, but as a balancing act, it was all even. Her words.
A lot of it's contracts. I mean, we have
Negotiations.
union negotiations, just probably take as long here as they do in Salisbury. So anyway, we can, with your permission, we can look at this, both sides, and maybe get some.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I do think it's a good idea for this board to look at it.
Right, I mean, I think
Yeah, it's important.
I mean, my only concern is if you redo the deal, and this is only a very small part of the deal, and historically, the cost for the high school has been on a per capita basis, per student basis.
Right.
And you start redoing the deal,
What else?
how
is
far
there?
are you gonna redo the deal? And then that's when it's gonna,
Well, apparently statute dictates that only the superintendent can be carved out of
oh, really?
the budgetary
Yeah,
thing.
that's in there too.
So not the assistant superintendent or the business
Can't stretch
manager?
it
'Cause that was
to
my
the
question too.
clauses.
So just the superintendent's salary,
Still
period?
change the
Right,
law.
you'd have to change the law, right?
Which is
Go farther
also
than
being
that.
discussed by the ABC committee.
Right.
It's a
So
lot of
that's-
different things going
Yeah,
on.
so that's,
You should
I
look
mean,
at
no
it.
doubt, as this per pupil cost goes up, this becomes a huge deal.
Yeah,
And so,
Does anybody recall how much Cornwall gets in ECS money?
nothing.
It is
well, we do get something,
Zero.
Rachel. We get, we
Not
get like
ECS.
$100,000 a year, something like that,
From where?
from ECS.
You
From
sure?
ECS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do. We get,
Yeah.
every town gets something. I mean, but other towns get several million and we get,
It's zero. We'll check.
Yeah, we should check. and see.
well, okay.
Because Katie
stay
gets
tuned.
like 2.1 million.
Yeah,
It may be zero in some
I'm
other
pretty sure.
category, but we've always gotten ECS.
we get a little bit, so we can have that for next time. So,
Thank you.
okay. Any other public comments?
One thing, maybe you said something when we talked about the trees in the storm, but there's a big branch sitting on wires on 128.
Right.
Does the town look at the roads, even the state roads, and how do you go about reporting that, or can you assume that it's being taken care of? I mean, if the wind picks up or ice sits on that branch, wires are likely to come down. It's sitting there since, Wednesday.
See, part of the problem too is, it depends on what wires are sitting on.
It's on the phone and cable.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's part of the problem, that the phone and cable companies don't have the resources of the power company. So the power company will go by and look at that and say it's phone line.
But
Not
I
our
guess the
problem.
question is, we can be confident that the state or the town is looking at all of the
Right.
wires on all the roads and it'll be on the priority list somewhere.
Call
Right.
Frontier and tell them.
I mean, I just want to be one of them, well, somebody must know and then nobody calls,
Yeah, I know. But if enough people call, then we'll actually have to pay attention. But you have to sit online for 20 minutes to wait for
And that's-
someone to answer.
Part of the problem too is that some people that registered their outages in the system fell through the system, so the system wasn't perfect. So people should know that too, that it pays to call again and again, and just don't assume that you call them at the start means that it stays in the system for whatever reason. That's something else we're looking at.
I think sometimes a bunch of people call, they fix something, and they assume the whole line is then fixed. And there may be a second problem down here that doesn't solve some people.
They haven't learned Cornwall yet.
Gordon, you did say there were some extra lights left from the tree.
Yeah.
Maybe they could be taken down to the transfer station, because they usually decorate down there. Maybe instead of having them sit somewhere, they could be taken down there for a
They
little
could.
bit of decoration.
All right, well, I'll talk to Stephen about that. I'm not sure if these are specialized.
Oh,
I'm not sure if
So,
they're specialized.
is the transfer station open when it's dark? Ever? Town garage maybe, or
Bon
the town hall.
question.
That was a good idea.
They don't
Gordon,
assume,
did it last
This
time.
will just let me know when you.
I get home.
That's it? Wow, great meeting.